Hello everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Thank you for joining in today's session. So we will be discussing about this insightful webinar on overview of Oracle risk management and advanced HCM control. We are today privileged to have two of the most respected industry experts with us who will be showing and sharing their deep insight for today's webinar. Today's session will be overlooked by Arun Majumdar and Srijita Chatterjee. If you guys have any question regarding the webinar, if you have any queries and questions, you can drop it down to us in the Q&A session. Without any further ado, let's dive into today's session. Arun, over to you.
Thank you, Devanshi. Shrita, do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, welcome everyone. It's lovely to see so many people dialing in. Thank you for your time. We have some customers on the session as well, so lovely to see, and some prospect as well. So let's quickly dive in. Today's session is talking about the overview of the risk management and the SIM control, and we'll be running more sessions in future about that. So just a quick introduction. We are a very small boutique risk advisory firm. Sorry, we're small and boutique risk advisory firm working on the risk management, security, GRC, access management, identity type of projects, and we work with many customers specifically in the Middle East and Europe and Africa. About 100 people globally and customer across various industries, public sector, telecom, financial services, healthcare, and all. So today we'll talk about the risk management solution from Oracle, which is a integrated solution like any other module from Oracle Fusion application. Sheet, if you go to the next slide, and then what is the use case for that? So we ended up helping the customer to build the business case that how risk management solution can help them to implement. So some of the slides and content has been taken from Oracle sources. So just highlighting that we will be using and reusing some of the Oracle content as well. So this is a slide I usually love a lot because this was presented back to Oracle Cloud World. It used to be Open World at one point in time pre-pandemic, and this shows about the problem happens when you have weak internal controls. Um, Employees having additional accesses, elevated access, privileged access. Sometime they can set up supplier, process supplier payments, they can set up employee and process employee time card and process employee salaries and so on and so forth. So some example around how weak internal controls can reflect onto poor um, financial hygiene for the organization. Sometimes it's a financial loss, sometimes it's a reputational loss, sometimes it's a regulatory fine, and so on and so forth. And sometimes it's a combination of all of these. So on the next slide, we tried to kind of bring some KPIs and some industry numbers around what are the drivers for risk management. And some of the figures are even surprising to me. If you see the last one, the average cost of data breach is around $5 million, and this is coming from an IBM review. And then there's a like if you see the 5% of the revenue of a typical organization loses to fraud, and that is coming from ACFE, which is Association of Certified Fraud Examiner. So some of these are drivers for considering effective risk management. I think this morning I also spoke to a panel about the evolving role of risk management and cybersecurity in the organization. So hopefully everyone on this call is coming from that mindset that why cybersecurity, risk management, and overall security is important for any organization or anything in life. I think I've spoken to a customer and they have given a classic example of you're building your house, right, where your family will be living in. When you're building and designing the house, you're going to be concerned about the locks on the doors and the windows, the security system if that's needed for that part of the world, and all of that. So again, for you, the financial data, the information across the organization, be it financial, sensitive, HR, and supply chain and manufacturing information, all these are critical data, and you have a real objective to kind of make sure that you're protecting that assets as well for you. So I think sometime we implement risk management, there are one driver we work with Scottish Council, and I see they're here. They were looking into only solving one problem, and they implemented risk management. But there are customers who kind of may go on and implement risk management to support various use cases as well. So these are, I think, some of the KPIs coming from industry experts around why risk management is important. So let's go to the next slide. Sorry. So here you see we were trying to at least list down what could be the drivers for risk management. So for some time we work with customers. I call them a GSA or a non-GSA customer. GSA is Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Anything west of GSA is basically a regulatory driven requirement for customer, but anything on the right side of the GSA is more about good governance and implementing best practices for that organization. External audit is actually a key driver for implementing risk management solution. She the keep on going on some of the next one. So sometime you see the internal audit and the internal risk management department coming up to set up good governance and set up the risk management for the internal organization. And then you have, if you are from telecom, healthcare, public sector, and then financial services, you have regulatory and compliance requirement. Those are the driver for risk management. And then you have a lot of data privacy requirement coming in across the globe. We are working in Europe, we are working in UAE, working in Saudi Arabia right now on a lot of PDPL and data privacy project. So that could be the driver for risk management. And then you have completely SOX or UK ICOFAR or UK SOX kind of requirement. There is JSOX as well. So those are sometimes driver for risk management. And then the bottom you go to the list around more about good governance and reputational safeguarding of information, and definitely a fraud prevention. So these are, I think, some of the driver for risk management. And as I said, that some organization has more requirement than the other. Some is looking for to solve one or two problems. Some are looking for to solve, if not all the problems. So when kind of building the business cases for risk management, I think these are some of the consideration. And I think this is, I believe, some of the customer, some of the prospect who have considered or are using Oracle Risk Management. You have possibly seen this slide far too many times. So this is basically the Oracle called them building blocks for risk management, and it goes from bottom to top. So we started focusing on the bottom layer, which is basically focusing on the access side of risk. So making sure that who has was access in the system, and then we slowly go up around, then the move to a monitoring and find out who is actually doing what in the system. And the top layer is about bringing all of that together into an integrated risk management solution. Sorry. So on the bottom side, you see some of the typical use cases, and I think Shita will talk about some of the other use cases as well around if you are implementing risk management in the beginning of your transformation journey, then you can use risk management to design secure role. Very unfortunate to say that most of the time organization and the project and the IT department do not prioritize security and risk management. So they do not consider modules like risk management solution. So the challenge is sometimes the roles are poorly designed. I'm reviewing a proposal right now with one of my colleagues for a large construction global customer, where professional services, a top tier implementation partner implemented the Fusion solution, but not designing the security correctly, and now they had a payroll fraud. So their management has advised the IT team to do a deep security review for the whole role design and come up with the recommendation and gap and fix those gaps as well. So I think we definitely recommend, and Oracle also recommend, to implement risk management in the beginning of the transformation. But client may have various constraint of not doing that because of budget, because of priority, because of tight deadline, because of skill set, and there are various acceptable reason. But if you are implementing risk management in the beginning, then you can use that to design the role securely. You can test those role as well. I think we had some of the very initial customer, a large utility from Saudi Arabia, where the CFO said that, hey, by the way, I want the GRC to be implemented before the ERP UAT, so that I would be using my GRC system to test my own role design as part of my UAT processes. And this is I think maybe a too ideal world scenario, and I think I've not seen too many customer with that maturity to say, "Hey, by the way, you can use your GRC investment much before the go live, even during the design and the UAT phases, to make sure that the role design and the control designs are correct." And then you can implement this for doing segregation of duty analysis, which is a classic example. Sheeta will talk about access certification, but then overall you can use the bottom layer to do a continuous security monitoring. Now come to the middle layer, you have your master data control, you have your transaction control, you have your configuration control, you have your audit control, and Oracle gives you a huge amount of out of the box content for that. And just to mention that on the bottom layer for Oracle and the middle layer, overall Oracle gives you 400 plus best practices scenarios. And we as a partner, we also created around 3000 additional scenarios for you to implement. So mostly if you working with us, you're not going to reinvent the wheel of building a new control scenario. There's a high possibility that we might have implemented that already. And coming to the top layer is then bringing the PDPL requirement, your ICOFAR requirement, which is the internal controls over financial reporting, everything together. You can kind of define your risk control. You can then fire up your assessment. This could be self-assessment, this could be independent multi-approval multi-layer assessment, and then using this module for your financial reporting compliance and the financial reporting health. And then you can then integrate this with your FDI, so which is your Fusion Data Intelligence and Oracle Analytics solution, to do further and advanced analytic reporting as well. So, and then this is, as I said, that this is, I would not use the word integrated, because this is just another module for Fusion application. Unlike previously, you have to implement GRC separately on a separate infrastructure, but now everything is taken care by Oracle. You do not have a worry about things changing and all of that. So, Sheeta, let's go to the next slide and you can pick up from here.
Allow me a moment to unmute myself, which I forgot previously. So as Arun was highlighting about the building blocks that Oracle Risk Management Cloud offers, here are some of the use cases that we have segregated from the blocks that we have just now talked about. So these are on the left hand side, we have the ones which is the bottom layer that we talked about, the advanced access controls or the can-do analysis, wherein the custom roles can be designed based on the foundation of the standard rules that can help us to identify the separation of duties violations. We can also check access requests for these SOT violations. So two of the pointers that Arun mentioned we will be talking about was access certification and advanced access request. These are two of those use cases which are pretty interesting in nature because they have, let's say, a preventive tint to them. Using advanced access request, we can check before assigning the roles that what can be the probable violations, and from there we can take an informed decision. And just like that, user access reviews is something that might come across or come out in a lot of audit reviews that take place. And using this access certification, we can automate this activity of reviewing the user's current accesses that can, let's say, help us to go a long way ahead. So this box was mostly about ensuring that the right people have the right accesses, wherein the one that in between ensures that the right people with the right accesses, where they're performing the right activities or not. So using these, let's say, semantic AI designed advanced financial controls or AFC, we can continuously monitor a user's activity that can be related to the business processes like procure to pay, record to report, or order to cash, or it can be also related to audit transactions or configuration that has taken place. We are able to monitor all those. Thirdly, if we move towards this particular box, it's about the box on the, or the block on the top that Arun talked about, which is also like helping us to be compliant with the law of the land. And we can, let's say, stick to ICOFER or PTPA. We can document the risks that have been identified, and we can certify these risks along with the controls, whether how effective they are, and thereby ensure the company or the organization to be compliant. So these are mainly the use cases. The other one that we can see at the bottom is advanced HCM controls. So this is like a layer that envelops the user's access or security and the user's activity, particularly for the hire to retire processes. So this serves as a separate module which will help you to take a look or monitor the activity that has been happening regarding the hire to retire processes. Arun, if you would like to add anything on this particular slide. Or-
Thank you, Shita. I think there's a couple of questions as well. I think I'll go for the second question. We said, how does Oracle RMC help identify, prevent segregation of duty conflicts in real time? I think this was a challenge because back in the on-prem Oracle application, Oracle GRC, there was an option for preventive control governance. So you could have prevented something from happening. So when the new risk management solution launched, the customers were looking for, hey, by the way, this is all great and monitoring, but this is an after effect. How do I kind of stop this from happening? So there was no option to do that. But then Oracle introduced advanced access request, which is the second bullet on the left green box, check access request before for SOD violation. So this could be used as part of your JML process, the joiners, movers, and leavers process, where it can help you to automate the SOD checking and the user access approval at a very beginning of the process. So if you are not comfortable giving an user with a conflicting access, then you can reject that request and maybe start working on possible breaking up the role or other remediation activity. But in that case, you can always stay clean. So I think sometimes we use this phrase called get clean and stay clean. Sometimes the tool will help you to get clean, but it may not help you to stay clean, because you kind of get clean and then you kind of then junk keep on coming into the system because of the loose or the weak user access review process, or the JML process, the joiners, movers, and leavers process. So now you have this option to prevent something from happening before that is actually happening. Rashita, I've got a question for you, which said that what are the best practices for automating Intel controls using Oracle RMC? Does Oracle give you any best practice recommendation to start with?
So, like for, if you can just repeat yourself one more time, sorry.
So, does Oracle give you any best practices recommendation for any control to start your risk transformation journey?
Yes, sure. So as you have also touched base on the previous slide, there is Oracle offers a library of about 400 plus controls, right? But among them, Oracle has also identified some of those which start or work as the best practice controls, which initiates the journey so that the user can get accustomed to this scenario of having the controls and how that can be monitored. So yes, there are some of the suggestions that are available.
Okay, I've got a quick question for you. So, um, suppose Oracle gives you as a list of 10, 12 control, which they said, hey, by the way, this is where you can start. Is this the 10, 12 control applicable for all customer then, or do you have to do a kind of a control or risk mapping to find out what is priority for the customer specifically?
It's always recommended to do a bit of requirement gathering, because whatever Oracle suggests, be it in terms of roles, be it in terms of controls, that's just to lay the foundation. But in order to receive the best output, so as to say, we should always go ahead and understand what the organization is lacking in or requiring. And based on that, from the list that we have received, then we should go ahead and identify the controls that should be deployed.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Sheeta. Yeah, let's
Thank
continue.
you.
Thank you.
So the next slide is about the demonstration that we would take you for. So I'll just shift my screen from here and take you to the environment. So here we have logged in into the demonstration environment, so as to say, where I have logged in as Philip Kent. And the beauty of this environment or this particular solution is that this is RBAC in nature, meaning since I have logged in as Philip Kent, so all the roles that are assigned to Philip Kent, he'll be only able to access those relevant work areas. So right from the start, we're trying to ensure that the right people are having the right accesses so that we are able to secure the organization. So our area of concern is risk management, and within this tab, there are a few slides or blocks that we can view. These are the objects or items we discussed in the building blocks. The first place I would like to take us to is the risk management dashboard. So this is a dashboard which is out of the box in nature, but this provides or helps us to provide the view that where we are standing. If the controls that has been chosen, as Arun mentioned, we have had a requirement gathering session that we have identified the controls that are required, and we have completed the implementation after successful process playback and use acceptance testing sessions. Then this is the view we might have. The controls are deployed, and we can keep a track of where we are standing. If we have access controls deployed, then we can see what are the incidents. If we have gone ahead with access certification, we can see the status, that how many users have been reviewed. We have the top 5 users with conflicts and that top 5 roles with conflicts, so as to understand that among all the users that are there, or among all the roles that has been assigned to the users, which are the areas of primary concern that we should look into. And seeing this, I'll also take us to another part of this particular slide, which showcases the best practice controls. So these are some of the examples from the huge library that Oracle provides. And these are examples of advanced access controls, or the ones that helps us with the can-do analysis. So it is segregated from business process to business process, as you can see, record to report, procure to pay, so on and so forth. We get to see the name of the control, and a single click will take us to the information about the control directly. We have the number of users that has been highlighted for this particular control. So these controls are like algorithms wherein it tries to find out that the rules that have been set over here through these algorithms, who are the ones who are violating these rules. We get the violations in terms of incidents and also the term of use accounts. And from there, the journey begins that how we can actually remediate this and reach a place where we are assured that the environment is secured. I'll just take us a bit below to showcase that there are also list of non-compliant test users and compliant users. So users who are having the right amount of role and right amount of accesses are flagged over here. But the ones who have accesses that might possess a threat to the organization is shown over here. Seeing this, I'll take us to a few of the examples that we would like to show. So I'll bring us to this library. So once we import the controls, this is where it would come. So this is mainly the testing ground as in terms of models, and these are the ones which we finally deploy. So it's ensured that throughout this journey, we know that we are able to deliver what would actually suffice the need of the client. So I'll go for this particular example 6390, which would talk about create suppliers and create payable invoices. This is an example of advanced access control or the can-do analysis, which will be helping us to identify who are all those users who can create suppliers as well as create the payable invoice at the same time or simultaneously. This might open up a portal of threat because the one who's creating a supplier can create a fake supplier and ensure the money is driven out of the organization into that fake or fictitious account. I'll take us to the logic part just to give you a quick understanding how this algorithm would work. So over there, we would find some information like create suppliers and create payable invoices. These are the access points which have been identified within this block of create supplier. And if I just take a step back, within the next one, which is create payable invoices, there are some other entry points that have been identified. Importing payable invoice, creating payable invoice. So all these activities have been bucketed together, and the aim of this algorithm is to identify that who are all those users who are having this combined ability. Seeing this, I'll just quickly take us over here to give you the glimpse that is what we can see. So over here, what we can see is the output of creating suppliers and creating payable invoices.
So Ashit, I think the screen, you have to share back the screen. I think the sharing has been lost.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yes.
Thank you for informing. So I hope it's up now for everyone, or at
Yes, you
least
can see. Yeah.
okay. Thank you. So we have been talking about create supplies and create payable invoice, an example of advanced access control, which shows that what are the activities that can be done by the user pertaining to these two areas. So we have this one particular user called Alberto Diaz, and he has this role, which is allowing him to perform this particular activity of releasing hold on payable invoice. And in this same line item, we'll get to know that he's also capable of creating a supplier and importing a supplier, and that is because of he's having another role. So this basically initiates the conversation that this particular user who is part of this organization, should he really be having these accesses, these conflicting accesses that might let him or allow him to reach a part where he can perform any fraud? So this is an example. We would also like to show you the flip side of this particular example, and for that, I'll just take us back to the dashboard. So, if this side of the dashboard talks about the list of all those advanced access controls which showcases the can do ability, we have another particular page called the SOD transaction report, which showcases that what all transactions have actually been performed by the user. So the one that we just now talked about, creating supplier and creating payable invoice, this is the same scenario. Only we can over here see who are those users who have actually performed those transactions. So we can see Eleanor White is one such person who has created the invoice, but although she has not created the supplier, but have created the supplier side location. These are basically alerts that we receive once we deploy the controls so as to understand what all activity has taken place into the organization. And from there, we can go ahead and investigate that is it the correct thing or is it a fraud that has taken place. I'll take a pause, Arun, if you would like to add anything on these two aspects.
No, no, let's continue. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll then bring us to another example, which is related to the AHC or the Advanced Human Capital Management part. So, if the other controls were about the separate business processes we saw, this is an example of managing an employee as well as managing the payroll for the employees. So again, it's a classic scenario of segregation of duties violation with the user who's having the ability to perform both of these activities. I'll just quickly take us to the incident page to showcase what is shown over here. So there's this person called Brian James who can calculate the payroll quick pay activity, and that's because he's having this role payroll manager. Now, this activity of calculating the payroll quick pay is conflicting in nature with this add direct report or let's say hiring an employee. And this is an activity he can perform because he has certain other roles as well assigned to him, which is a line manager, which is a HR manager. Now, again, from here we try to understand that is this something, is these the activity that he actually performed, or is this the role that should actually stay with him? I'll also like to show you one particular, let's say, screen that might help in these conversations in the future. So if you just while the page is loading up, we try to have a conversation on the building blocks. So if we deploy these algorithms, this is the output we receive. If we take an extract of this output and try to analyze this output, that what becomes our segregation of duties analysis, another use case in this particular scenario. And from that analysis, we get to understand that one particular user, he might have been having activities that are conflicting in nature because of certain rules. We can just segregate that information or separate that information. And from there, we can start the conversation that what needs to be done next in order to remediate this activity. So this is one screen which helps in this visualization of these conflicts so that the end users can take the decision and thereby move forward. While we receive this information, there are certain activities that can also be performed. I'll just quickly showcase one, which is if this is a known conflict, which might happen in the case of a, let's say, smaller organization where the same person might be needed to have this conflicting accesses. In those cases, we can just simply go ahead and accept this with a reason that this needs to be there. If that is not the case, we do have three other options to work on with in order to progress with this, let's say, investigation stage. So I'll just come out of here. and try to summarize that this is what the controls or the algorithms help us with. All these three examples were a part of the library that Oracle offers, as well as part of the best practices that Oracle suggests that might help you identify the threats or frauds when you start this journey. Saying this, I would like to take us back into the same page to showcase one more example which can be interesting in nature. So I'll just search for this particular number, which is duplicate payable invoices. So, in the organization, in a single day, there can be multiple invoices that can get raised or created, and it is humanly possible to keep a tab on these duplicate payable invoices that are getting created. So, this is another best practice example that might help you over here. So, what this algorithm tries is to identify all those payable invoices where certain conditions are put. That if these conditions are matching, then just highlight these scenarios to us in forms of incidents. If the supplier, invoice date, invoice amount, all of these are same, and the only difference lies in the invoice number, then the system will be highlighting that to us. I'll just quickly take us to the incident page, which is the final output over here. And I'll just take one line item over here. So these are some of the columns that we can choose that we want to view over here. We have the choice to see which information is required or not. So what we have over here is the name of the supplier and all relevant information that might assist in this investigation. We have the supplier name, and I'll just take us to this part where we have the payable invoice number. So this is our invoice number as we can see, and we would have a similar column which talks about the payable invoice number, but that is 70% similar. So a brief, even a smaller or say little change is identified. Over here, a hyphen was added, but over here, the hyphen is no longer there. So if anyone, let's say, consciously has created an invoice which is near similar or likely to be similar to the existing invoice number, it will be flagged over here. We can then go ahead and perform an investigation. And while the investigation is in progress, we do have the ability to put a hold in this invoice if it's already not completely paid. So this actually works as a bit of a preventive sign where we can ensure that this entire money is not moving out from the organization. We are able to put a hold to this one. So moving from here, this was one prime example which has, let's say, a lot of clients find this interesting because that opens a wide area and actually touches the area of concern. So from this, I'll bring us back to the dashboard area. And from here, I'll take to this, the third block that we saw in the building blocks, the topmost layer that was there, which is the risk and certifications workflow or financial reporting compliance, as we call it. Just click over here while I take you through the options available. So the risk that controls the process that has been identified. So each organization has their unique risk and control matrix, right, that they have designed as per their requirement. And that risk and control matrix can easily be put into the system to automate this activity. This is an example of this risk and control matrix that we have over here, wherein we have a perspective that works like, let's say, a filtering mechanism. We have the risk name, the control name, and various other attributes related to this control that can be populated over here. Although this is an out of the box or standard replica that we are looking at currently, we have the flexibility to customize this as per the risk and control matrix that is in use. We have a feature called assessments, which are basically evaluations that can be done against these objects called risks or controls. And there are various types of assessments that can be performed throughout the solution. And all those assessments can be captured in form of those summaries or reports. So right now we are looking at a dashboard page, but we can very well export this into an Excel sheet or into a PDF that can be served in a meeting so that people understand where we are standing in terms of these risks and controls. So these are some of the completed assessments and these are some in progress. We can design and redesign the dashboard in a way that would talk to the stakeholders and address the needs. So these are some of the examples. One more part I would like to touch about in this is this heat map. So we have our risks, we have our controls, but if we want to analyze this risk, that how likely is this risk to happen, and if this risk actually takes place, what will be the impact on the organization? If you want to map it out through a diagram, this is what we would be having. And if we hover over these bubbles, we can even see the scoring of those risks. We can analyze our risk, we can evaluate our risks, we can try to mitigate the risk by using a control which is also available and can also evaluate those controls. And this entire workflow is something which can be very easily replicated into the system. We do not need to manually input this information. We can have the risk and control matrix, map it accordingly, and through a click of a button, we can have this entire thing imported over here. We can assign people. We can ensure that people are having the proper ownership so that they can actually take through this activity to reach the conclusion. So, this is how the financial reporting compliance workflow can be utilized to address your internal controls or financial reporting compliance needs, or even your personal data protection law needs, which is currently very much in vogue. So, this was another example of the module that we talked about. And there are a few more examples which are currently in use. I'll just take us to this part and I would let Arun talk to them. So, Arun, the newly introduced IT super users controls, would you like to say anything about those?
Yeah, sure. I think we got a couple of more questions to answer as well. So I think for IT super user, so sometime we have seen clients and organization have implemented user access, good user access management policy and user access management control. The right people have the right access, but sometime IT super user or privileged user or admin user or elevated user, they have a backdoor entry to do everything. And we have found out through various audits in my previous roles as well from professional services that we were auditing, we found out an invoice was approved by an IT super user because of, I think they were maybe resolving an issue and all of that. But the organization said, hey, by the way, I've given this master key to my IT super user, admin user, BPOs, business process owners, and my process super user. But how do I monitor what they are doing? So Oracle then has introduced a lot of IT super user. Shita, can you open those? Yeah, so a lot of IT super user type of control, which is basically then monitoring who are your, first of all, defining a list of IT super user and then monitoring what they are doing as well, because sometimes that's very critical that you may have good access management control for the user level, you have segregated for transaction, master data and configuration, but hey, by the way, there's a one ring to rule them all kind of a thing as Lord of the Rings. So these IT super user controls are getting very popular and clients are using them immediately, and then they're kind of then extending that to kind of implement a bespoke scenario for their areas as well. So these controls are very popular. So Oracle has launched them in the last certain number of releases, and they're getting very popular. And the more feedback come in, and hopefully Oracle will kind of bring more such control from various customer feedbacks and ideas.
Sure. We'll just quickly take them through the result of one just to highlight
Yeah.
how it can be viewed. So this one is about creating or updating the payable invoices and if that has been done by the IT super user. So we have the name of the IT super user, what invoice number that has been created, who has actually created it, when was it last updated, and a series of other information. As mentioned, we can choose which particular information we want to view from the tables that are utilized for creating these algorithms. This is one such example where the IT super user actually has created or updated the payable invoices, which they were not supposed to perform.
Cool.
From here, I will also like to take us to another series that's available. And if Arun would like to take this one.
Yeah, guys. I think I love them. I call them 70,000 series, and I think These are control which got very, very popular in sort of again last couple of years as well. So they had been there for some time, but the more client is using them and we are refining them, these are specifically needed for organizations who are very security focused. So like we work with Ministry of Defense across the globe or Ministry of Defense type of organization where they're not much more focused on a financial loss. They can take a $1 to $2 million of duplicate invoices hit, but they are not compromising on the security side of the risk. And that's why these controls are very, very important. We call them 70,000 series of control, where you can implement or even out of the box start looking into, hey, who is doing what from a sensitivity point of view, and you can build your own control as well. And specifically, as we have started working on so many projects in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the data protection, this goes very much hand in hand with the data protection law that we have mapped those control. We have created new control for a KSA PDPL requirement, and you can become 100% comply with implementing this and another set of control which we have built specifically for KSA PDPL. So these are also great set of additional control which are giving you more flexibility on who is doing what, specifically focusing on the data sensitivity. She's just conscious of time. There's a couple of questions. Maybe I can take couple, you can take couple. So for you, what is the relation between FRC and advanced controls? How they are related?
Oh, well, they are very much related. That although financial reporting compliance is a place where which can be utilized to incorporate the internal controls, but if we have identified the risk that is there, can be addressed using any one of these advanced controls that's available. We can actually relate them. There's a feature onto the system using which we can correlate this advanced control section with the risk that has been identified on the control to ensure that it's completely secured. It can be done. It's possible.
Cool, thank you. I think then the other one I'll quickly take. One is how does the Oracle HCM support compliance with labor laws and regulatory requirement across all regions? So Oracle builds a global product which is available globally. I think this I have the same meeting this morning as well with another partner of us. Um, Oracle is not going to build any specific regional compliance. They're going to build a solution which either has some core functionality which can address some of these compliance, if not all. But then the additional compliances, we as a partner, we build additionally. So I think the person who has asked the question, if you are looking for any specific regulatory requirement, please feel free to speak to us. We are happy to do a discovery call because we are always keen to know about what is missing in an Oracle product, which we can then recommend back to Oracle product team, and we have enough customer to, uh, I think, bypass the voting process to kind of get that idea approved by Oracle. And the last question by Mr. Bhalchandra is that there a possibility to create separate compliance requirement module like SOX COSO, JSOC. So yes, we were discussing with a Japanese bank last week that you using the FRC module or the financial reporting compliance module, as Shreeta mentioned, you can document your risk and control, and you can do completely your self-assessment and use this for your ICOFAR reporting completely. So a lot of customer I know, I'm aware of, they are using Oracle FRC module even if they are not Oracle Fusion. So they have maybe an SAP ecosystem. In Indonesia, we have a customer, telecom customer. We have heard about a PeopleSoft customer in the US, is a large global brand who is using the FRC compliance for various SOX and JSOX compliances for documenting risk and control and executing the assessment. Sorry, just conscious of time, we have reached our peak hour. So maybe Sheeta, if there's nothing else, we can pass it over to Devanshi to close the call. Unless anyone has any question, I think feel free to ask.
Sure. I'll just shift. Thank you, everyone, from my side. And
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today's webinar. If you would like to watch this webinar again, we have recorded this whole webinar on demand. So you can just contact us on the mail you can see on the screen. Also, you can directly reach out to Arun and Srijita on their LinkedIn profiles. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate the time. Looking forward to speak to you. Thank you.